Commander Ethan Cole wasn't a typical soldier. He was known across human colonies as one of the toughest, most capable fighters humanity had to offer. He'd survived battles against pirates, stood his ground against interstellar mercenaries, and more than once defied orders to save his own men. His name was whispered among young recruits as a hero, but Ethan would never call himself that. For him, it was simple. You did what was right, regardless of the cost. It was this principle that led him to an uncharted system one lonely night, and ultimately to two alien princesses on the brink of death. Ethan was on a solitary scouting mission on the edges of the Milky Way, exploring unknown sectors for any potential dangers to the human colonies. He was days away from any official line of defense, flying solo, when his ship's comm system picked up a faint distress call. It was barely legible and coming from an encrypted alien signal he'd never encountered. It sounded broken, pleading, and he could make out the desperation in the faint voice. Protocol would have told him to ignore it, but Ethan wasn't one to turn away from someone in need. He followed the signal to a small, uncharted planet on the edge of known space. As he entered the atmosphere, his scanners picked up two faint life signs in a cavern below. With no backup, no orders, and no idea what he was walking into, Ethan braced himself and landed. What he found shocked him. Two alien women, bruised and malnourished, were huddled together in the cold of the dark cavern. They were princesses from a distant star system called Zyrathia, royalty on the run after a recent coup had thrown their planet into chaos. They were exhausted and terrified, hunted by mercenaries loyal to their cousin, who'd seized power and was determined to eliminate any threat to his rule. The elder sister, Princess Lyra, was wary of him at first, but her younger sister, Aelia, managed a weak smile. They both knew he was their last chance. Ethan knelt down and offered them a ration pack, his voice calm and steady. "I'm here to help. You don't have to worry anymore." Princess Lyra was reluctant to trust Ethan, wary of a stranger's intentions. But her sister, Aelia, sensed something different in him. A warmth, a kindness they hadn't seen since the coup. For days, Ethan cared for them, sharing his food, treating their wounds, and helping them recover enough strength to move. While he patched them up, they shared bits of their story with him. Their cousin had staged a violent overthrow, seizing the throne with mercenaries and brutal enforcers, sending the princesses into hiding. They had been on the run, evading capture, and had nearly given up when Ethan found them. As they spoke, Ethan noticed their resilience and determination. Despite everything they'd been through, they were committed to reclaiming their home, not for themselves, but for the people of Zyrathia, who were now suffering under their cousin's tyranny. Something stirred in Ethan as he listened. It wasn't just their plight, but their purpose that struck him. They weren't just running for their lives, they were running to save their people. Ethan had always been drawn to courage, to people who fought for others, and he saw that same spark in them. When they were well enough to travel, Ethan made a decision. "I'll help you get back to Zyrathia," he told them. "But once we're there, you'll have to fight for yourselves. I'll give you what I know, teach you what I can, but you're going to be the ones leading this charge." Lyra and Aelia looked at each other, hope flickering in their eyes for the first time in weeks. Chapter 3: Training and Transformation. The journey back to Zyrathia wasn't simple. Ethan couldn't take them directly to their homeworld without being detected, so they landed on a nearby uninhabited moon, where he set up camp. Over the next several weeks, Ethan trained the princesses in basic combat, evasion tactics, and even some negotiation techniques. Princess Lyra was a natural strategist, quickly grasping the military maneuvers and tactics he taught her. She absorbed everything he showed her with a fierce determination, sharpening her mind and instincts. She wasn't just training to reclaim her throne, she was training to protect her people. Aelia, on the other hand, was quieter and more empathetic. She was less interested in battle, but insisted on learning everything Ethan taught her. She'd been a healer back on Zyrathia, known for her gentle spirit and compassion, and she worried about how war might change her. But as Ethan reassured her, "Sometimes, Aelia, strength comes not just from the will to fight, but from the courage to heal, even when things seem broken beyond repair." As they trained, they grew closer, their bond strengthening. Ethan found himself sharing stories from his own life, his own battles and losses. He told them of his drive to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, of friends he'd lost along the way. The princesses listened intently, seeing in him not just a soldier but a protector, someone who had dedicated his life to a cause greater than himself. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt the weight of his loneliness lifting. He had found a purpose here with them, a mission that went beyond orders or duty. Finally, the time came to return to Zyrathia. They had gathered a small force of loyalists who were willing to fight alongside the princesses. The plan was daring. Ethan would lead a diversionary attack while Lyra and Analia infiltrated the palace to confront their cousin directly. On the eve of battle, Lyra approached Ethan, a mixture of gratitude and determination in her eyes. "I need to know," she said. "Why did you help us? Why risk your life for two people you barely know?" Ethan took a deep breath, his gaze steady. "I saw in you both something I hadn't seen in a long time, a willingness to fight for others, not just yourselves. And, well, I know what it's like to want to make a difference. If I walked away from this, I'd regret it for the rest of my life." Lyra nodded, a silent understanding passing between them. The battle was brutal. Ethan's tactics worked, drawing away the majority of their cousin's forces, giving Lyra and Ilia the opening they needed. When they reached the throne room, they found their cousin waiting, surrounded by his guards. But the princesses, armed with Ethan's training and their own resilience, fought with a strength he hadn't expected. Lyra, fierce and determined, managed to disarm her cousin, and with Alia's help, they subdued the remaining guards. When it was over, the people of Zarathia celebrated their victory, reclaiming their home alongside their rightful leaders. Ethan stayed only long enough to see them safe, to witness the sisters beginning to heal their broken world. As Ethan prepared to leave, Princess Alia stopped him on the palace steps. "You've given us more than just our throne back," she said softly. "You've given us hope." Lyra joined her, adding, "You'll always have a place here, Ethan. Should you ever need allies, know that Zyrathia stands with you." With a final farewell, he boarded his ship and left, his heart heavier than he'd anticipated. The galaxy was vast, filled with dangers and darkness, but he'd learned something in helping those princesses. Sometimes the greatest battles weren't the ones fought with weapons, but the ones fought for justice, for compassion, and for those willing to risk everything to protect their people. As he flew into the stars, Ethan knew that he had left a piece of himself back on Zyrathia, and wherever he went, whatever battle he faced next, he knew he carried with him the bond they had forged in that quiet resolve to help. Not for glory, not for power, but because it was simply the right thing to do.